Your 20s are an interesting time. For years, the 20s were a time where you went from school to career to marriage and then to kids, all within the span of a decade. Yet over the years, I've noticed that it's sort of evolved into this time for you to discover yourself, a time to find out who you truly are. That's ridiculous. That's a great way to waste your 20s. I see so many people today. In fact, I've had friends, with the emphasis on had, who were 23, 24 years old and still never even had a job. That completely blows my mind. I got my first job at 16 years old and have worked ever since. 50 years ago, people were getting jobs much younger than that. But what's happened is that we've developed a mindset where 30 is the new 20. People are launching careers later, getting married later, having kids later, and because of all of that, they're being forced to retire later. A few years ago, I saw a TED Talk by a clinical psychologist who said 30 is not the new 20. In fact, she shared about the importance of taking claim over your 20s as opposed to using them as a developmental downtime. She also gave a statistic that absolutely blew me away. She said that 80% of life's defining moments occur before the age of 35. That means 8 out of every 10 decisions, experiences, and aha moments that make your life what it is occur before your mid-30s. Yet so many people in their 20s choose to waste that time as opposed to making the most of it. Today, I want to give you 5 things that you can put into practice to help you not waste your 20s and put you on the path towards building wealth. The first thing is to increase your intangible assets. These are things that are going to add value to who you are. Things like knowledge, experience, and work ethic. These things are going to increase your value in the workplace and in your relationships. What happens when people spend their 20s trying to find out who they are? They end up finding out that they're nobodies. Now, that sounds mean, but it's the harsh reality. The best way to find out, to learn who you are, is to simply learn more. Before I acknowledged the fact that I wanted to start my own company, I worked in many different fields. I started as a janitor, worked as a host, a server. I explored economics, the medical field, actuarial studies. That's how you know I was really desperate. I even considered becoming an actuary. But my point through all of that is, not only did those experiences teach me what I didn't want to do, it helped me understand who I am, what it is I do want to do, and it equipped me with the tools, the knowledge, the experience needed to be successful once I launched my business. For example, while I was in college, I worked as a server at a semi-upscale restaurant. And for most people, that's all it is, a job where you take orders, deliver food, whatever. But for me, I decided that this was an opportunity to develop my communication skills, improve my problem-solving abilities, and to network with all kinds of different individuals. Because the restaurant was slightly upscale, there were always businessmen and women making deals, having meetings with clients, all of that. So I was able to experience it firsthand. So whatever job it is that you're working, be intentional about what it is that you can get out of it. What are the intangible assets that you can develop that are going to add value to who you are? The second thing is to start reading regularly. I'm not talking about reading the news or reading things on Twitter. I'm talking about actual books. Our generation has lost the art of reading, and it's primarily due to the technology today. Everything is in video format. You're watching this right now. But there's something incredibly powerful that happens in our brains when we read something as opposed to watching it. And no matter how brilliant you think I am or anyone else on social media, there is a wealth of knowledge that can only be found in books. In addition to that, many of the great ideas I've had have come from reading. Now, the funny thing is, a lot of those ideas have nothing to do with what I was actually reading. It's just simply that reading forces you to be creative. It forces you to think, which I've found to be a great way to help come up with new ideas, solve problems, etc. The third thing to do is to save as much money as you possibly can. Now, I realize this is contrary to what a lot of people are telling you on social media today. A lot of people will say, don't save money, just reinvest it into yourself. Now, I can sort of get on board with that in specific scenarios. For example, somebody starting a business, launching a company, they're going to need to pour as much as they possibly can back into that company, and I understand that. However, what does investing in yourself actually look like for most people? I'd argue it's the first two things I gave you, increasing your intangible assets and reading, both of which don't require a whole lot of money, if really any money, but they're both going to dramatically increase your earnings potential. So instead of paying someone $3,000 to help you start that dropshipping business, save that money, read some books, increase your knowledge, and then get started. For most people, this is going to be far more beneficial, and here's why. Let's say you're 20 years old. If you started putting $300 a month away every single month for 5 years, by the time you're 25, you'd have $18,000. That would be enough to apply for an FHA loan on a $400,000 home. You're now 25 and you own real estate. You live in the house for 2 years, then you refinance into a conventional loan and then use some of that equity that you've built up to go and purchase a second home. Now you're 27 and you own 2 properties. Do the same thing again and you haven't even reached your 30s, but you already own 3 properties. So not only is increasing your intangible assets and reading, investing in yourself, so is saving as much as possible. That's going to open doors. It's going to give you opportunities to purchase tangible assets. The fourth thing to do is to open up a Roth IRA. If you're not familiar with a Roth IRA, it's a type of retirement account that lets you invest your money, let it grow while the interest is compounding, and then when you withdraw the money, you don't have to pay any taxes on it. So on a normal retirement account, if you need $4,000 a month in retirement income, you'll actually have to withdraw about $4,600 in order to pay for the taxes. But with the Roth IRA, if you need $4,000, all you have to do is withdraw $4,000 because you're not paying any taxes. So it's going to make your money last longer. But here's the catch with all retirement accounts. The amount of time you're investing for is far more important than the amount of money you're investing. Let me give you an example. If you started investing $6,000 a year at 25 years old and did that every single year for 40 years, until you retire, at an average return of 10%, you'd have over $2.65 million. However, if you waited 10 years until you're 35 years old and then decided, you know what, I better do more, I'm going to double it, I'm going to do $12,000 a year every year, but now for 30 years, till you're 65 and ready to retire, at the same rate of return, you'd have less than $2 million, over $650,000 less, all because you waited 10 years. Even though you were investing twice as much, it still wasn't enough to make up for the 10 years you waited. So consider opening up a Roth IRA and putting money in every single month starting now. The fifth and last thing I want you to do is be mindful of your habits. There's actually a really good book I want you to read. It's called Atomic Habits by James Clear. My dad actually gave me this book a while back, and it really helped put into perspective some of the things I was already doing, but didn't quite know why I was doing them. One of my favorite lines from the book is, "It's so easy to overestimate the importance of one defining moment and underestimate the value of making small improvements on a daily basis." This is so incredibly true, especially when it comes to building a business, a successful career, or just building wealth. It's the seemingly small habits that make the biggest differences. I'm going to make an entire video on some of the books that have been influential to me, but that's a great one to get you started. Be mindful of your habits, focus on creating new good habits, and breaking the bad ones. As always, please make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.